Call the regular council meeting of of Monday, July the 22nd order. I was reading from my minutes. I apologize. We have a late item. It will be part of the consent agenda.
Your Worship,
Yes?
we have to go to committee of the whole first.
Thank you. Let's have a committee of the whole meeting first. I'm clearly eager to keep on keeping on here. Sorry. Committee of the whole. Apologies. All right. I will call the committee of the whole meeting to order. And there is an agenda in front of you. I'd call for an adoption of the agenda. Councillors Niche, Councillor Skelton, Morvan, all in favor. Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the city manager with regards to the strategic plan update. Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, this is the mid-year update of the progress on the strategic plan. Each goal of the strategic plan is laid out in attachment 1 along with the strategic actions. And the status is noted on the right-hand side. It's presented here for council's information, and if there are any questions that council has, we'd be delighted to try to answer them.
Yeah. Council, any questions on this strategic plan? Councillor Adey.
Thank you. I'm looking at the third one, replacing renewing infrastructure. I'm looking down at item 5, where it refers to the wetland treatment. I just want to make sure that we are clear on what it means by construction starting in the fall. I think there has been in the past some confusion around that, so I'm wondering if I can direct a question to make sure we're clear on what that means.
Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, I will defer that to Director Pucci.
Director Pucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we have gone out to an RFP for contractor involvement. At this point right now, we are working with contractors to find the sort of best way to put this into place with the most cost-effective way, but we have not moved forward with any construction. So what we'll be doing is coming back to council prior to ensure that this meets the budget needs and schedule needs, and then council will have the approval to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Cunningham. Your microphone, please. Thank you.
I just have one quick question. Is the address the restrictive covenants on selected city-held properties? Is this in any way holding up any developments?
Your Worship, it's not holding up any developments, though it's something that we want to take care of, so when developments come, they can go ahead. Thank you.
Councillor Adey.
On the same point, the 999-year leases I think we're talking about, it does stipulate that nothing's happened yet with that. My thought when I saw that one, though, is that we have a number of those covenants, and I would think that they're not all equal, I guess. And I hope that when we come to considering them, some nuance is considered in terms of one area being in a different situation than another.
Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
Could you explain not equal?
Councillor Adey.
Well, I think that if there are restrictions on a forested area, for example, that would be different from a restriction on an already developed property. And so we might end up considering them in different ways. So I'm just looking for some individualization. I don't know that we want to deal with them all in exactly the same way.
I would think the covenants are the same on all the property, but I get your point that there are some that are still green belts and some that have been developed over a period of time. But I would defer to Dr. Buchan about the covenants, other than just a conversation of how we're going to deal with them. If the covenants are the same on every piece of property, I believe they are.
Dr. Buck, do you have any comment?
Your worship, we are working.
Sorry,
with-
microphone. Is it on?
It is, and
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
need to bring it closer. We are working with the ministry to try to find a way forward on this. It's a file that was active many years ago and wasn't completed, so we are engaging with them, and we will find out whether or not there's a simple all-in solution, or whether or not we have to deal with them one at a time. If it's one at a time, we will be strategic.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Do you want us to actually, we can have a motion to receive?
A motion to receive is just fine.
All right. Motion to receive, Councillors Niche, Councillor Cunningham. All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We also have a report from the Director of Corporate and Legislative Services with regards to City of Prince Rupert governance policies. There are a number of them there. Council, I invite your comments on any one of them. I must confess, as I read through them, I find myself questioning why 5, 6, and 7 are council policies. Certainly, I would have thought that snow and ice removal would be just a corporate policy, that sidewalk patios would be similar. Dr. Buchan.
Your worship, it's a very good question, and there's different practices from municipality and municipality as to what is administrative and what is truly governance. And there's these are examples that could go either way. Historically, these ones were approved by the council, and that's why they're back to you. We've tried to keep them largely as in the original origin of the policy. These have all been modernized in terms of format, removing outdated references, cleaning up some language. There's not been really much substantive change to each of these, but they're there for your eyes. And if you're fine with them, you can approve them as they are, or you can say we'll approve some of them and refer them to be administrative policies and leave them in the hands of staff.
Thank you. I have no objection to the policies themselves. I just question why they're sitting at the governance level. Councillor Cunningham.
One question I have on board committee and commission recommendations. It says there committee, board, and commission minutes must be submitted to council on a regular basis. I would like to see that more specifically, quarterly, annually, biannual, something like that. Because a regular basis could be once every 5 years. We can take it to an extreme, but if we put in there specific language, quarterly, annually, or something like that, I'd rather like to see something specific so we know on these different commissions, because we've seen things get out of control and it was too late to straighten it out. And then, we're behind the 8 ball. So if we're getting quarterly or biannually reports, at least we know what's going on ahead of time.
Dr. Buchan.
Your worship, there's 2 recommendations that we would suggest, or 2 options: semi-annual or annual. The advantage of annual is that it we can set the date. It's the beginning of every year, and it's a regular thing. Semi-annual, if you feel the need to see the minutes more often. I think annually would be sufficient, because it's easy to pencil that in, and you don't have to worry about summertime interferences.
Yep. So I'm thinking there's a consensus around annual. I think that it is a good point. So sorry, is that on the first one?
That's Gov 07.
Sorry, which one?
Is it this one here?
B. Oh no, I'm in the wrong. Okay. So Director Miller, have you got that as a revision on that?
On GOV07, yes, I do. Yeah, annual
Yes.
basis.
Okay. Councillor Cunningham.
Just one more. On the one with ice removal, I've brought this up over the last couple of years. I've noticed absentee landlords not clearing their sidewalks, but we're going after the existing businesses to clear theirs with the overhanging, you're going to be fined if you don't. And yet I've seen, for example, the corner of 3rd and McBride going up from the dry cleaner all the way down to the government service, that whole area not cleared at all. And then at other times I've seen our staff, Public Works, cleaning it. Now, if Public Works is cleaning somebody else's responsibility, are we billing them for doing that? Or are they just doing it as a public service? And why are we cleaning something when somebody should be getting fined for not doing it?
Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do actually issue tickets for that, as well as city staff clean it, and we then issue a bill to the property owner.
There you go. This policy, though, specifically is dealing with the city's snow and ice removal, right? And the priorities in which it will take place. Any other comments? Councillor Adey.
And just reading through all of the ones that refer to community boards, commissions, societies, and so on, I would find it useful, and perhaps the public would as well, to have a list of those. I don't think that I could name them from memory. I obviously know the library board and the Leicester Center and the airport board, but I think it would be good to have a list as an appendix to all of this. And I would also wonder whether there aren't some differences in terms of the responsibilities of board members in terms of reporting back to council versus any fiduciary responsibility they might have to the boards that they're part of. The one that comes to mind is the port board, and the fact that, you know, between Port Ed and ourselves, we make an appointment, but then that's the end of it, and that's a different circumstance than somebody we appoint to the library board.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just kind of reading through to see if there's a differentiation. I agree with your comment. Yeah.
Just to follow up and maybe clarify, I think that's where the list would be handy. We get the list, and then if there are nuances that emerge based on being able to look at a list, we could then deal with it at that time.
Right. Fair enough. Okay, Councillor Cunningham.
Well, while we're on the topic of boards and that, we discussed at one point that sometimes we have no choice who we appoint to a board because we're asking for 1 or 2 people and only 1 or 2 people apply. But we discussed the fact that maybe these people should be getting some sort of board or governance training so that they actually are more adept at being on a board. I don't know if the city manager or somebody can even give them a very basic course on governance and being a board member, because a lot of these people join a board and have no idea. And I think it might be important that they have the rudimentary skills of being on a board.
Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, that's a really good question, good point. Our plan going forward for next council orientations is to invite council's boards and the like for appointments that occur in term. I think that we can look at putting together a governance guide to give to the appointees. And we'll put that down as a work plan item so that they know some of the basics. I think that's a very fine point. It'll show an ability to show some expectations as well.
Any other comments? Councillor 80.
Sorry, I do have one more. In some cases, as councillors, we sit on some of these boards. And I think that going back through the history of that role, there's nothing in here that clarifies a councillor's responsibility in regard to their membership on these boards. And I think I'm not asking for it now, but I think we need to put some thought into defining that clearly, because it has been unclear, and occasionally that's led to some confusion in the past.
Yeah. Dr. Buchan.
Your worship, that is on our work plan now.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think we could. So there's nothing wrong with what I'm seeing here, but I think we can do some work to strengthen. I think I think we need to talk about mandate letters. If somebody's appointed to a board, or when a board is appointed, that there's a mandate letter from council to say, this is what we hope you do in the course of running whatever it is you're running on our behalf. And there is discussion here about feedback mechanisms, but there should be good feedback mechanisms. Go ahead, Dr. Buchan.
Your worship, I am going to suggest that council might want to consider pulling Gov 04, the first one, because there are a number of suggestions which I think we can actually incorporate into the policy for reconsideration. The appendix, as well as a statement that the city will provide governance guide and mandate letters as council deems appropriate.
Excellent. I think that's good. Is that work for council? We'll pull item 1. Okay. So council, then I'm asking for a motion to recommend the adoption of 2 through 7. Councillor 80, Councillor Cunningham. Any further Councillor, was that a question? No. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. You have a time for questions, inquiries from members of council. Of course, that same opportunity will present itself in the regular meeting. Anything else? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole. Councillor Rondawa and Councillor Skelton Morvan. All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.